Today we are discussing about argument in Studio. We have two new features updated in argument, so let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome to Uipath All-in-One YouTube channel. I'm your RPA developer. Please subscribe to my channel for more interesting Uipath updates and hit the bell icon. Arguments are used to pass data from a project to another. In a global sense, they resemble variables as they store data dynamically and pass it on. Variables pass data between activities, while arguments pass data between automations. As a result, they enable us to reuse certain projects time and again. Studios support a large number of argument types, which coincide with the type of variables. Therefore, you can create generic values, string, boolean, object, array, or data table arguments, and you can also browse for .NET types. Today we are discussing about arguments. So in Studio, in down we have arguments panel, and we use arguments to pass data from one file to another file. So to create an argument, we have to click on create argument, and by default it will give argument 1 as an argument name. We'll change this to username. And in directions, we have four directions in argument. So before we have only three, now this one is like updated, a latest one. So the argument name is mandatory field, and direction is also mandatory, and argument type is also mandatory field. The default value, it is not a mandatory field. Either we can give, or else later we can update this value. The context menu for an argument, so we'll click on an argument and we'll right click on it. We have convert to variable, so we can convert this argument as a variable. We have copy option. We can copy here and we can paste it in one more file. So then it is not double work. So we have paste, and we can delete an argument and design property and add watch. So add the current argument to watch panel. This is available during the debug. So in the debugging, we have panels like watch panel, local. So it will add this argument to the watch panel and find reference. So we can convert this argument as a the context menu for an argument. So we'll click on an argument and we'll right click on it. We have convert to variable, so we can convert this argument as a variable. We have copy option. We can copy here and we can paste it in one more file. So then it is not double work. So we have paste, and we can delete an argument and design property and add watch. So add the current argument to watch panel. This is available during the debug. So in the debugging, we have panels like watch panel, local. So it will add this argument to the watch panel and find all reference to the argument in the project. The results are displayed in the find reference panel. We have four options in directions: in out, and property. In, the argument can only be used within the given project if we give the in direction, and if we select the out direction, the argument can be used to pass data outside of a project. And if we select in out, the arguments can be used both within and outside of a given project. and property not currently used. So, about this, we'll discuss further. And we have argument type. So by default we have string, and we have so many types like object, integer, boolean, data table, arrays. Like if we want some more like arrays, strings, we can browse here. We can click browse type, and we have n number of types in UiPath. We can select any one, and the default value I will give name as article. So I can either give a value or I can leave it as a blank. It's an optional field. Now we will see how to pass data from one file to another file using arguments. In main, I'll create a variable. I'll use a assign activity, and now I'll create a variable as username, and I'll give the value student. I'll use one more assign activity, and I'll create one more variable age, and the variable type as integer. I'll give 20. Now I want this Kirin and the and his age in in this flow chat. So how do I pass data from one file to another file using arguments? So I'll go to flow chart. Here I'll create an argument username. It doesn't mean the variable name and the use and the argument name must be same. We can create different names, and the value will be string, and I'll create one more argument age, and the argument type is integer. So if we are passing different data types, it will give error. Like the argument type is string, and if we are passing integer, then it will give an error. So if you want, I'll show. So I'll keep it as a string. So I have created two arguments. We can take data from this file to this file using arguments. So using these two arguments. So I'll close this. Now here I'll give a message box to print the values. Username, and one more message box for age. I'll save this, and if you notice the argument type is in, this means we can take data from this file to this file. So I'll go here. So we have flow chat. I'll invoke this. As soon as I invoke, so we have the name, and we have arguments username and age. These value we are passing our variables username and age. I'll click yeah. So here we are getting error because our variable age type is integer, and the argument age type is string. This means we are passing string value, no, we are passing integer value to the string argument. So this will give an error. We have to change this in the flow chat. So I'll go here in the argument panel. I'll change this as integer. So if you are confusing, like the username and age are like both are same, I will rename this as username 1 and age 1. So you can identify the argument names are username one and age one. Okay, so it will be update. I'll save here. If we did not save and if we go here and if we check, it won't be updated. We have to save first. So in this main, if you see in this main, in the variable panel, I have two variables, username and age, and type is like string and integer. I did not specify any default value. So here I'm passing value. I'll click on this. If you see the username one and age one, these are arguments. We are passing the value. I'll give username and age. Now we don't have any error. I'll click on OK. I'll save this. So if I run from main, so the so in this flow chat, we have to get the message box and the value. So as soon as I change the argument in the panel, it will be reflected in the designer panel. I'll go to main and I'll click on debug file. So we are getting the value and the execution and is ended. So there is a one more thing. If we go for debug and we have execution trial, so you can see the difference. If I run now, we can see which activity is executing now. Like this got successfully executed, this activity now it is in this, and we got the first message box, it got successful. And if we go back, it is here. If I click on OK, this will also get green tick. So this is how we can identify uh, which activity got successfully run and error, or this is like away, and we can get faulted also the status of the activity. So I'll click on OK. So now we can see we saw how to pass data from one file to another file using indirection. So now I'll create a one more argument called father name, and I'll give this as out direction and same string. So here I'll use assign activity. So for this argument, I'm passing, like either we can create a variable here as a father name and we can pass that variable to this, or else we can use like we can directly give the value to the argument, like directly we can give using here by the default value, or in or using assign we can give the value. So I'll give the value as ram. I did not give any value here. So yeah, I have already given the value. I'll save this. If we go back to main, we are in debug. Yeah. If I go back to main, if I click on this one, invoke workflow, we have one more argument, father name, out direction, string. So now we can create a variable as father name, or else as a father we can identify both. So here I have given only father and same string. I have a variable and I'll specify that variable here. father. I'll click on OK. Now we are passing data from main to flowchat, username and age, and we are getting data from flowchat to main. Like we are getting data back. So I'll give a message box. I'll give father variable. Now I'll run this. So now we got Kiran and his age. If we come back in the main, so we have given the value as Ram in flowchat, but we got the value in main. So this is how we use out direction. So if we are doing addition, we have two values here. We'll pass this value to flowchat, like to the next file. We have adding formula here. It will add the data like 10 plus 10 20, and it will pass the value back to the main. So this is how we'll pass data from one file to another file using in direction and out direction. I'll click on OK. Now we have created arguments with two directions, in out, and we have in out direction. So in direction we'll pass data from main to flowchart, and from out if we want to get data from one file, so we use out direction. So if we want to pass the data and we want to modify it, we want to get back that data to main. So in such situation we use in out direction. Now I'll create an argument. Hmm, I'll create an argument as marks. Okay, I'll give type as integer. Okay, I'll go here. So before this, we'll add one more assign. We'll create a variable as marks underscore IA, like internal assessment. I'll change this type to integer because we want to add this integer, and I'll give this as 30. So here we have marks. We come back to here. Now we have four arguments with marks. In the direction, I want to change the direction. Sorry. In arguments, I'll go and I'll set this as in out. The default value, the default direction is in. So I have made it to in out. I will save it. So now we have marks and in out. I'll pass the marks IA value to this. Okay, so in out I can pass the value and I can get back the value. So if we see this value is 30, now we'll give a message box. I'll delete this message box. So if I give marks Now the marks value will be 30 in the main. So we are passing the marks to this, and I'll give one more message box. Now I'm giving marks. So if I come here, so we have this marks, and I'll set the value like here on. Okay, I'll use a assign activity. This I'll set value as 50. Now we have, yeah, now we have a variable marks ia, and the value is 30. So we are printing the marks. So we are passing the marks to this flowchart. We are changing the value to 50, and we are getting this value back to main. So in this message box, we have to get the value as 50. So we are doing in and out in a single argument. If I run the flowchart, so this means the in and out direction is in one argument. So we are getting this variable value, like this message box value. So now, okay, we got Kiran, so 20, and now if we see the same variable got updated, so and it is showing the value as 50. So this is how we use in out, where we can pass the value and we can get the value in one single argument. So now we have seen like all three. So we have one more like property. So I'll give a argument name as final final result. But we did not get the final result. So in such case we don't know, or else we are using this argument in future. Then we can set the direction as property. So the definition says not currently used. So if we are not using the argument anymore, but in but it might be useful in future, then we can just make it as property. So we can change, then we can change the direction. So if we set to property, uh, here we have like five, one, two, three, yeah, five arguments. So we'll save this. If I go back to main, if I see, we'll save this also. If I see in the arguments list, we have only four. The argument direction which have set to property, they are not visible. They are not visible now, like because it is like we are not using right now, so it won't show in this inward workflow argument. Like we cannot pass data, or we cannot pass or variable anything to that argument which have direction as property. So this is, so like after some time, like I got final result, and I'll change this to in direction out or anything. I'll save this. I'll go back to main. I'll save this. Now you can see the final result argument. So this is the difference. So property means we are not using right now. So this is about arguments. The one more feature UiPath has given for the argument, and it is like very useful, is in the, if we go for properties, we have is required. So the argument name is username. Now I have created, and the value is same Ashika, and is required. If By default it is set to false, and if we set this to true, like if we click on check, if the checkbox is selected, then like the value of this argument is required. Like sometimes there is a probability we need the argument value should not be null, it should be passed from one file to another file. We have to check like if the value is not passed, like we can get exception. In such cases we can use this is required option. So this is very useful. And we have direction and we have argument type.